Jerome!
What's going on?
Jerome! Blessings, blessings.
Blessings, brother. Great to see you.
Great to see you. How's your day going?
Man, today so far has been amazing. We got a walk-in the rising, then we just finished some qigong. We were energizing. And so I had to do a little meditation right before the conversation.
I'll share.
Yeah. How about yourself, brother? You already in movement.
Yeah, got to be. It's a little late start for me today. But likewise, I got my stretching, my yoga practice, my breath practice, my healing sounds. And yeah, right now I'm headed out to the garden to go do some work over there.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, I saw it was a gardener. It said movement education. It was what did you
Yeah. So, Movement Education Outdoors is the nonprofit organization that I'm working with,
mm-hmm.
um, and yeah, they do a whole bunch of stuff with kids from the cities. They take them out on hikes, and they have a summer camp in the woods out here. They go kayaking, and I'm the educator at the urban garden,
Awesome.
and I tend the garden. And yeah, we got like 10 middle schoolers and high schoolers that come
Beautiful.
out twice a week, and we kick it in there.
Beautiful. So that's where you're headed right now, to the garden.
Yeah, I'm headed there right now. The kids aren't there because it's summertime. They'll be back in the fall, but in the summertime, I'm just there by myself, kind of maintaining and harvesting and
Okay.
doing my thing.
And what's your passion behind it? Like, where did you really find that inspiration to start doing this kind of work?
Well, it's interesting because so this garden is a garden that I've been a part of for like the past 7 years. A really good friend of mine, she started it with a couple of her friends in 2011.
Mm.
And so it's just an empty house lot in the city that she started squatting on, decided to start an urban farming. And they were doing like a whole vegetable CSA for a bunch of years. And then they kind of started farming somewhere else. And so it turned into more of a medicine garden. And then I came on the scene, started planting some fruit trees.
Mhm.
And then recently last year, my friend who runs this organization, Movement Education Outdoors, she invited me to be the educator and to sort of link up with her program.
Awesome. So it
Yeah,
just came together. Everything just came together.
so beautifully, so beautifully.
Awesome. Awesome. And remind people where actually in the world are you? Remind us.
I'm in Providence, Rhode Island.
Okay, Rhode Island. Blessings.
Yeah,
And where are you from? Oh, go ahead.
people are always like, is that in New York? No, it's not. It's a state.
Rhode Island. And where are you from originally?
I grew up in a city called Bridgeport, Connecticut.
Connecticut.
Um, yeah, so not too far away. Um, but I left Bridgeport and went to school in Boston, lived in New York City for a little bit. My mom lives in Georgia. I was down there in Atlanta.
Okay.
So kind of bounced around and then came back up here when my little man was born 13 years ago.
Blessings, blessings. What is his name?
His name is Arius.
Arius.
Yeah.
Arius. Awesome. That sounds very, very intentional. What does that mean? That sounds like a strong name, Arius. What does that mean?
So Arius, like, it's an incredible name. It has different meanings in different languages. Um, it So we call him Ari, and so Ari is a common Hebrew name that means lion. But in Greek, the word Arius or the name Arius is connected to this um, this word Arya or Aristotle,
Mhm.
which means of the sky.
Okay.
Yeah. So in Greek, Ari means eagle. So we always call him a griffin.
Nice. He's got the bird's eye view.
Yeah, he's got it.
Soaring
He's got it.
overhead, watching overhead the sky. Whoa, of the sky. I never knew that. I never knew that. So Ari means of the sky.
Yeah, Arius means of the sky, and it's actually his mother's last name. So it came from her father, and her father's from the Dominican Republic.
Okay.
So somehow it crossed the, crossed the sea like names do.
Right.
Um, and her father passed when she was little, and so she
Mm.
wanted to carry on that that legacy. And
Right.
his middle name is Vitruvian.
Okay.
You know, so his name spelled out is Arius V Cobb. So that's my last name is Cobb. So it kind of looks like Arius versus Cobb,
Right.
which is
Right.
just
And
random family joke we got.
say again?
Yeah, that's our family joke.
In the I mean I'm not too familiar with the Vitruvian Man, but in my mind I see like a man with with a diagram and these arms going like the is that the Vitruvian Man?
Yeah, yeah, that's the Vitruvian Man, and
It,
that's Leonardo da Vinci.
right,
And
right.
that's supposed to be like the perfection of of um, of mathematical proportions.
Okay.
So it relates to the circling and the square.
Hmm.
And how man exists or human exists um, in the sphere, but within space.
In the sphere within space.
Yeah,
Okay. And that's what inspired that middle name?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
But also, it was just kind of a premonition. He's like it's incredible how we came into the world and fulfilled his name. He's a master builder. So Vitruvius. So the reason why the Vitruvian Man is called Vitruvian Man because there was an architect in ancient Greece called
Mm.
Vitruvius, and he was considered to be sort of like the uh, like almost the Orisha, if you will, of building. And so he wrote 10 books that it's called the 10 books on architecture, and those are really like all the rules laid out that inspired all the Greek um, and then Roman architecture.
Okay.
Yeah, so he was kind of like the mythical master builder.
Whoa. Whoa. A lot of history, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah. A lot of meaning, a lot of symbolism, a lot of, it almost sounds like mythical, there's a lot that goes in it, you know? Yeah, very intentional. And I see like in the middle of your name is soars, and you talked about, Arius, soaring like that eagle, but you have soars in your name.
yeah. So Soares, that's my mother's maiden name.
Okay,
So so that's my mother's maiden name, and then Cobb is my father's last name.
okay.
So those are the two. And yeah, that is interesting that soaring, right? How it shows up in English. But so my mother's from Cape Verde, which
Mm.
is um, which is an island nation off the coast of West Africa,
Hmm.
and they were colonized by the Portuguese. So
Hmm.
it's a Portuguese name, and what it means in Portuguese is like the and the way you say it is Soares, and that means like a person who raises pigs. So yeah, thank God for English on that one,
I
right?
would have never known. I would have never known. That was the farthest away from what I was thinking.
Right.
The farthest, man. And just Kai, I've never seen someone spell your name the way you spell your name.
Mm.
So did that develop or was it always that way from the beginning?
Yeah, it kind of developed, So yeah, so my birth name, my given name comes from my father, and when I was growing up, people always called me other names, and Kai was one of the names that my grandmother used to call me like when I was like a baby,
Mm.
and that was so like when I was trying to really like find my own name in the world of how I wanted people to call me,
Hmm.
that name just it rang true for me
Yeah.
as the most true name. So I spelled it myself because I had the opportunity to, and I remember when I was first trying to write it down, it was like is it K-I? Is it K-Y-E? Is it K-A-J? You know, all these different things. But, you know, I decided to just leave it as it was, you know. Yeah. And, and then later on, it's interesting. I was at a dinner with some folks. It was a Cape Verdean event, but there was folks from different African nations.
Mm-hmm.
This woman from South Africa, she was like, "Oh, how do you spell your name?" And I told her, and she said, "Oh, that's the same way we spell the river Kai in South Africa."
Mm.
Um, so that was really cool to learn that, especially because his name Kai, um, in so many different languages, it means water.
Okay.
Like it means ocean and Japanese and
Yeah.
or I think Hawaiian it means ocean and Japanese is some other form of water, but it's like a it's also like a worldwide
That's
name.
dope. That's dope. Do you feel like you embody those qualities or characteristics? Like when it comes to water, you know, when it comes to like being a water bender or being able to flow, being able to, you know, be flexible, like the principles that water has, do you feel like you embody those qualities?
Yeah, I'm a river. I'm always running from something or towards something, you know, and but you know, I flow, you know, and I'm a Pisces as well, so yeah,
So
water's my principle.
we're both water signs.
You're a Scorpio, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So we both have that water sign in us, you know, the sun, the water sign, you know, being a water bender, flowing with the emotions, you know, flowing with life, growing with life, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're yeah. Do you feel like you're a waterbender?
You know, I have to be, you know, I have to be. There are just too many opportunities that allow me to train that, you know.
Hmm.
I've been awarded too many opportunities in life that have kind of forced me to be flexible. Yeah, in that way that water, like Bruce Lee talks about, it can flow or it can crash. You know, you put
Yeah,
it into the cup, it becomes the cup. You put it in the teapot, it becomes the teapot, and just be formless and shapeless. So I've definitely learned how to be a chameleon, how to be formless, how to be shapeless, how to be a shapeshifter in life and not just a drifter in life, but a shapeshifter in life. That is definitely a skill that I've had to build. Yeah,
yeah, I feel
yeah.
that. Yeah,
So,
yeah. It's really, you know, it's really important. I feel like coming from, like, you know, where I come from is like I came from a city where it's, you know, predominantly people of color, um, and but like I was always sort of like moving through different worlds all the time. You know, like different cultures, different languages. Being in cities where I'm in schools with, you know, all different types of people, and yeah, I feel like it's been one of my primary skills is just understanding how to um, speak many different languages, even inside the English language.
right,
You know, and speak many different types of body
right,
languages. You know,
right. It definitely, you know, it can assist us in many ways because there's so much that can be said with the nonverbal, you know. Non-verbally, we communicate beyond, you know, in so many different ways. And it's, you know, even at I feel like just at such a primal level, you can pick up on energy, you know, way more than someone's words. You can pick up on their mannerisms. You can pick up on just the way that they move and the way that they groove in life. You pick up on it. And man, you know, when you were talking about Kai, that just like water, you're a running river, you're always running, just like a river. The other day, I remember you were saying that you were inspired to walk. Like for you walked for like 30 miles at a time. How long did you walk the other day?
it was like the first day I think I walked something like 20 miles, and the second day a little over 10 miles.
So you did a marathon.
Basically, yeah. It
You
felt
did a
like I did.
marathon.
It felt like I did too. I mean, I haven't I haven't done a marathon before, but yeah, it was a lot. It was a
what
lot of hours on the feet,
what was the
but it was amazing.
what was the motivation? Like, what was the inspiration? I saw you pointed out Blaze the yogi, you pointed out Ellie Tom, but like, what really inspired you to do that?
Honestly, the thing about me and walking is that it always comes up in my life when I'm in a period of change. When I feel like when I'm shedding some type of skin, I have this impulse to start walking. Um, and this summer, it's been that. I feel like, yeah, I've been in this process where, last year my father passed, and so I'm kind of like in these different stages of grief. And I feel like this year has been a time of transformation for me, where I'm like kind of opening up into being like actually a different person, um, or a new form of myself. So for some reason, well, I'll tell you what it was. I got back from I got back from Costa Rica. I did a really long fast out there this winter,
Okay.
and I got back in January, and the first day I got back, it was a blizzard, and
Mm,
so I'm a look. I have tropical blood, and I'm so like for me, it was a choice between like, okay, am I gonna get here and hide in my bed underneath the covers for the next 3 or 4 months,
mm,
or am I gonna go outside and walk?
right.
And so I just started
Mm,
walking, and I love to walk barefoot, and I find that walking barefoot helps me connect to not only the place but the temperature, the rhythms of nature. So I've been doing a lot of walking, a lot of barefoot walking, really all this year, and um, and then like yeah, a couple weeks ago I started having the itch. Well, I was down in North Carolina doing a permaculture training, and I got to spend 2 whole weeks sleeping in my tent, and I was outside the entire time,
mm,
and felt just so good, so yeah, so much healing power in that.
yeah.
So I came home and started to feel the claustrophobia being inside, and I started getting this itch. So I was like, I got to get back in the tent, you know. But it was like all these things coming up. I just kept having this to do or that to do, and didn't feel like the right day. And then I seen Blaze the breatharian yogi, and he was on there on the live talking about he's walking 52 miles to a
You're
campsite,
right.
and I was like, oh hell no! I was like, if Blaze can do it, I can do it.
There it goes. There
so
it
um,
goes.
so I was just sitting there. I still sat at home for a couple of days, and then one day I brought out my backpack and my sleeping bag. I was like, let me see if all this fits in here, and it fit. And then I was like, all right, maybe I'll leave tomorrow. And then I didn't make it till past 2 p.m. I had to walk out the
Had to
door, so I
go.
just left.
Had to
Yeah,
go.
I just left.
Man, I love that. I love that, man. You said if he could do it, I can do it. You're like, man, what we doing here? What we doing? I love how we can inspire each other like that. Like, you see somebody doing something and it pushes you. You like challenge accepted.
Right,
You know?
right. Yeah, and it's amazing. And in that video I shouted you out too because you've also been a big inspiration in many ways, honestly. But especially when it comes to the walking, just like hearing your stories of, walking down the highway to go to the grocery store and your cousins passing by and you just being like, nah, just just keep going. Um, and yeah, that really inspired me to really make it a part of my life. Like I love to walk, and I'll walk if I have the time here or there, but to really make it as like, oh, now it's time for my walk. I'm going out to walk, or I'm gonna go to the garden. I need to walk 2 miles, so let me leave early, or I'm gonna walk to work. Let me leave early.
Right,
Um,
right.
yeah,
Making it a part of your regimen, making it a part of your ritual, a part of your routine, you know, a part of your rising. It's interesting because even Alexis is witnessing us right now. She's commenting down below, and she was asking you earlier. She said, I just want to know what shoes were you wearing during those 20 miles? What shoes did you have on, or were you barefoot?
Well, it's surprising that I had any shoes on, but I decided to put shoes on. I'll show you the shoes. I got the same ones on right now.
Okay,
No, these are just so all the. Can you see them?
a little bit lower.
A little bit lower.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I
So
see them now.
they're just like so. All the shoes I have, I transitioned to wearing all barefoot shoes
Okay,
last year, and so these are just like some $30 shoes I got off Amazon.
gotcha.
Yeah, yeah. But I love
They,
them.
they did the trick.
They do the
They,
trick every time.
they, they made the track, you know. They made the track. So, man, brother, my condolences, man. I didn't know, Kai, that last year you said your father passing. You know, was that all of a sudden? Was that just out of nowhere? And like, how did you make it through that time?
It was kind of out of nowhere for me personally, but um, I think he saw it coming for a while. Me and my father, we've had a we've had a strained relationship um, since I was younger, and we always kept in contact. We never really like stopped communicating totally, but we would go sometimes 6 months or more, without speaking. We just had a lot of conflict, um, and so the last time I saw him, he had been he got an injury in his foot where he had a really bad infection that kind of left him immobilized for some time, and then he became diabetic, and so he was having some health issues that I knew about, but as far as I knew, he was being taken care of, and things were going all right. And the last time I saw him was actually New Year's Day of 2023, and, and he didn't look too good. He looked like he had aged maybe 10 years since the last time I saw him. But the interaction that we had was so peaceful, was so chill. Like we didn't have like any negativity for each other. And I wanted to ask, like, what's going on? Are you okay? Like, you don't look good. But I didn't want to start a fight. And those type of questions in the past would have started something. Um, so I just left it at that. And then in the next time I saw him, he was in the ICU. Yeah. So yeah, he was having very acute liver disease, and yeah. But I got to spend pretty much like 2 weeks with him in the ICU, and he was intubated the whole time. So he had a tube down his throat to help him breathe
Wow.
with the machine. Um, so for those 2 weeks, we didn't get to speak at all, But for me, it was a blessing because it was the words between us that caused so much strife in our life. And I got to show him a level of affection that I don't think we ever shared. I can't remember ever sharing the type of affection that we had, during those 2 weeks. I got to, like put my hand on his head and hold his hand and kiss him on the forehead, tell him that I love him, tell him that I forgive him, you know, and yeah, so it was a real blessing.
Man, thank you for sharing that. Like when you're talking about just that spirit of forgiveness, you know, just to be able to have that intimate moment that you had never shared before, you had never had before. What did that do for you? Like what did that do for your heart, your spirit, to be able to have, to have that kind of forgiveness in that moment, even if there were no real words between you, there was a dialogue. Like what did that do for you?
It was amazing. It just shed off a certain weight that I've been carrying for years. Um, and it was also amazing how I was prepared for it because the lat so just a few weeks before that, over the Christmas, between the solstice and Christmas, I had been fasting, and also walking and fasting a lot. And I think it was actually, it was maybe the night before Christmas or the night before that, where I had a dream that um, somebody who like stole something from me I shouldn't have been having anyway.
Okay.
Stole something from me, and like just kind of like messed up a friendship with someone that I grew up with, because they were like really close
Okay.
friends, and me and this other person were close friends, and this other person stole something from me, and then that other friend who I grew up with, who's also passed, didn't come to my side. He kind of like acted like he didn't know what happened. So like it was a lot for me. And anyway, I had a dream that night that this person um, came up to me and just said what's up to me, which was like crazy, because it's like, oh, you're saying hello to me. And when he dapped my hand, in my hand, he left a whole wad full of money.
Wow.
And I took it, and I said to him, I was like, man, thank you for this, and like I forgive you, not just because of this, but like I forgive you. And after that, Jerome, like when I woke up from that dream, I just laid in bed and I kept having these visions of all of these people in my life who I had been holding grudges against. Some people that I forgot I was even holding that grudge,
Mm-hmm.
and just in tears, just forgiving, saying out loud, I forgive you.
Mm-hmm.
I forgive you. And then, the last day that happened was Christmas morning, and I went walking to go to church. I never go to church, but I like to go to church on holidays.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the whole time I was just like singing, dancing, clapping, like this incredible joy from the lightheartedness. And so like I feel like all of that set me up to have this moment these months later with my father, where I was able to understand how in my heart how to forgive.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. Everything connected, like everything was leading you to that point.
it feels like it. It feels
Wow.
like it. Yeah.
Wow. It all came in line because when you say what you say, it's so important. Just even having that message, like thank you for expressing that because we heard so many times and you probably heard as well that when we're holding grudges, when we harbor a grudge or hatred or just anger or vindictiveness or like whatever we harbor in our heart, it's almost like drinking poison and waiting for someone else to die.
Ooh,
You ever heard that?
I never heard it like that. No.
Yeah, that's what they say. Like when you're holding a grudge against someone, it doesn't really hurt that person,
Right,
but
right.
it's eating you up inside.
Tearing you up.
Yeah. So would
Yeah,
you agree? You know?
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, when you say it like that, it makes holding a grudge sound really dumb. Like um, it just doesn't not logical. You know what I mean? And I feel that way. And I think that like we were, I was taught in my culture, to hold something. Somebody did you wrong, you know, you hold that against them, and I learned about forgiveness, and and I even would speak it out of my mouth, but I found in that after those moments that there's even a difference between saying I forgive you and releasing the the actual release of forgiveness in the heart. You know, the words and the energy are sometimes, I mean, they can go together, but they're two different things.
Mhm.
And that feeling, now that I know the feeling of forgiveness, it I know when I need to do it, and I know when I've done
Right,
it.
right,
You know.
right. So what a release, like you said, it got emotional. You're thinking all the way back, like all the people. that you've held things against and you finally just like let it go. You know, what liberation? That sounds like liberation. You're just free. Like what a weight off of your shoulders, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's huge.
And go ahead.
I was just saying it's huge, and also it's a constant work.
Right, right,
It's a constant
right.
effort.
So, coming from somebody, because myself, I've had so many arguments with my parents over the years, especially when I was younger, as a teenager and then coming up. And even before, being a teenager, I remember seeing them arguing. There was a lot of anger in the household. I remember witnessing them arguing before they divorced. The second time they divorced, I was 6 years old. Then I seen, my mom, she remarried like three different people after that. My dad never
Uh,
remarried, but then I constantly seen arguments. And then when I went on into relationships of my own, I was having arguments. And then it was just like just a constant roller coaster of emotions, but also just a continuation of the pattern of trauma, of anger, of grudges, and all of that stuff just continued through me. And it was like somebody was saying, it may not be your fault, but it is your responsibility. Like
mm,
it may not be your fault that this is on you, but it's your responsibility to get it off you.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
so when it comes to having health issues, my parents, even today, they still have so many health issues. And I can't really do anything to tell them, anything. I'm their child, right? No one is a prophet in their own home, in their own household. So they just kind of look at me and, they're amused by me. They're glad that I'm doing okay, but they still think that I'm crazy. So I'm thankful that I still have them in my life. But that thought of them being gone, it's in the back of my mind
yeah.
because at any point in time, you don't know. You just don't know.
You never
So
know.
what advice would you give someone who, if all
Mm,
of a sudden, if they lose one of their family members, if they lose their father, if they lose their mother, what advice would you give someone to help them through that time?
mm. Thank you for that question. Um, it's since my father passed, I've had to do a lot of um, reflecting on that because it made me like there was one day where I think I was just walking somewhere and I started crying because I had the sudden realization that my mother is also going to die, you know, and then just last weekend I was with my family, my uncles and my cousins and stuff, and so my son just turned 13,
Mm.
and he's like the youngest of the younger generation, right? So like now all of our babies are teenagers, right? And I was seeing my uncles and whatnot, and I had this realization. I was like, man, everybody is on their way. All these people in my family, they're on their way. And so I think that before my father died, I never really thought about that.
Mm.
You I think I thought about death and different conversations people would bring it up, or I've thought about I experienced a fair amount of death when I was a child. People dying suddenly or murders and stuff like that. But I never really truly sat and considered the people that I love are just like slowly dying.
Right, right.
Um, and so the advice I would give first off is to think about that. To prepare yourself for the inevitability, right? That your parents are going to pass, that they're going to not be here someday. And with that knowledge in mind, what do you want to say to them? What do you want them to know?
Mm.
What questions do you want to ask of them? This is something with my grandparents right now, right? Where I see them aging, and every time before I go to see them, I try to come with at least one question for each of them, you know, like something about their childhood or a family history or just something that I know they know, right?
Mhm.
That I haven't asked them before. What do I want to know, you know? How do I want them to feel about me, you know, in our relationship? And, you know, beyond that, I would say the other thing that I think that's really made this grieving process special for me, that is unique in my family, unfortunately, is that several years ago I started making connections with my
Mm.
ancestors. You know, so I started. Uh, I created an ancestor altar. You know, and
Mhm.
and with photos and lighting
Mhm.
candles and leaving water and leaving sometimes offerings, food offerings and stuff like that, and just being open to that communication.
Right.
You know, and so when my father died, because of having this open portal, I've had some amazing opportunities, not only to be with him in dreams. I was just with him in a dream the other night,
Wow.
um, where actually it's funny because in this dream he was asking me, how do you talk to your ancestors, how do you do that? And he was like furiously taking notes as I was telling him the process, you
Wow.
know.
You teaching them in your dream. You teaching your father. You're teaching them in the astral.
It was crazy.
Wow.
I never that's a conversation we probably never would have had.
He's over there. He's over there taking note. What next? And then what? And what do? Oh.
Yeah. And so I've had conversation with ancestors from his lineages, you
Yeah.
know, about what I need to do, you
Mhm.
know, in terms of ritual, and just kind of listening to that voice of like, okay, what's needed now, you know, like on his birthday I made his favorite cake, you know, raw. It was German chocolate,
Mhm.
but you know, we made it raw vegan and sent it in the river for him.
Wow.
Or you know, Father's Day, like get him his favorite breakfast and
Wow.
send it down the river. And so just like different ways of continuing to honor the relationship and know that like death is not the end. You know, it's a new beginning.
Right.
It's a transition,
That's.
and that relationship will continue.
Mhm.
But and like you said, it's not our. It's like it's our responsibility from this side
Mhm.
to, you know, to make that happen. I think sometimes, you know, ancestors come kicking in the door
Mhm.
for some people, you know. But I think for most of us, it's like we got to go to the altar, you know. Or I've realized now over the years too that the altar is within,
Mm.
you know. So I don't necessarily keep the same type of altar that I did in the
Okay.
past, but but I try to listen, you know. Like I know my aunt comes in when the moon is
Mm.
full, you know, or I know like my ancestor from my father's line way back comes in on the fog, um, you know. So I make space to listen for these different voices.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful, brother. You know, I love how you're just aware and you've cultivated this awareness and acknowledging the ancestors, you know, respect for the ancestors, reverence for the ancestors, and just receiving, you know, receiving like answers from the ancestors, you know. Even Nabiha is here with us right now, Kai, and Nabiha said that she can relate to everything that you're saying because she actually got to know her father a lot more after he transitioned.
Wow,
Yeah,
yeah, that's special. Shout out to Biha.
right, right. So I would have never
That's an
known these
amazing
things were
story.
even possible, you know?
Mm.
And I guess a lot of people don't because you said something, you mentioned that, you know, having an altar or communing with ancestors, you said that it's unfortunately a unique thing in your family. You were saying it's a unique thing in your family, unfortunately. Why
Yeah.
do you feel that way?
Well, I feel like it's unfortunate because my sister is really suffering.
Mm,
You know, I feel like she she didn't really have the time and space or make the time and space in her life to really grieve.
Okay.
You know, she's a mother. She's in school. She's working. Um, and you know, I've like she's been just struggling. You know, trying to process what happened and not really feeling like she has that connection anymore. And actually, her connection with my father was a lot stronger. You know, when he was alive. Whereas, you know, I feel like because of the practice that I have, I've been able to really connect with him, you know, and process. And, you know, it's a real privilege to, like, you know, I call it being underemployed. You know what I mean? Voluntarily underemployed, because I make space in my life, you know, for like when my father passed. I'm in a dance
Mm-hmm.
company, and so like right after he passed, like the week after we had the funeral, I went on tour,
Mm.
and I was on tour for like a month and a half, doing all these shows, and you know it's like intense. We're in the studio for 8 hours a day. The show is 5 hours, and like I was having amazing like energy in my body, you know, and I had this moment where I was like, wow, I can't believe I've like processed this death so quickly. I'm just, you know, doing my thing. As soon as I got home, Jerome, I crashed.
Wow.
And it took me 3 months to get out of bed,
Dang.
you know?
Dang.
It took me 3 months. It was like I would go to the mailbox and then need to take a nap.
Yeah.
But in that time, I had so many dreams with him, with my ancestors, you know, and was able to, yeah, just let those feelings move,
Yeah.
you know, and so I'm really grateful for, yeah, the privilege that I have in this lifetime to make space for
Mm-hmm.
evolution,
Right. Right.
you know.
Yeah. You know, I'm glad that you made that room for yourself. Like, I commend you, brother. You know, I commend you for giving yourself that time and allowing things to move the way they needed to. Because, you know, even going back to the lesson and symbolism of water, you know, like how Bruce Lee talked about water, like, you know, it needs to move. You know, if it's flowing water, it never grows stale. You know, but the
Yeah,
stagnant water, the you know, the pool of water that's just sitting and it's not moving, it can grow
slimy.
stale. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So you didn't stay in stagnation. You let move that vibration, you know, you worked it out. So wow, you still needed that time, even though you were dancing, even though there was a lot of things that felt like they were enhancing through the dancing. When you came back, you still had to crash. Like,
yeah,
okay.
no choice.
Yeah. 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 Man, man. You know, you mentioned when you were in Costa Rica, brother, that you went through a long fast. I don't know exactly what type of fast you did, but you mentioned that there was a significant fast that you did in Costa Rica. Could you talk about that?
Sure, yeah, it was so it was a water fast,
Okay.
and I went down to this fasting center, um, that yeah, Tanglewood Fasting Center. You know
With
about
Lauren Lockman.
Yeah, Lauren Lockman.
Wow.
Yeah, you know
Look at
Lauren.
this.
Have you been down there?
Yeah, I've been down there.
Have you
Yeah.
fasted there?
I was there. I mean, I was fasting that he wasn't fasting me, you know,
Yeah.
but I was fasting. I was with one of my friends. Her name is Nida, and
Okay,
she
I met
took me.
Nida there too. She was
Yeah.
there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's awesome, man. Small world. Small
yeah.
world. So yeah, tell me about your time in
That's dope.
Tanglewood.
Um, yeah, it was amazing. You know, so I don't know if you know the whole get up, right? But Lauren's got this philosophy where you need to drink as much water as possible,
Mm-hmm.
as slowly as possible.
Mm.
So basically what that means is you're like taking one sip of water every minute from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed, and doing nothing. His philosophy is also about rest, complete rest, right? So so I did the fast because, well, I wanted to do a long water fast for a long time. Like so many years, I've been sort of fantasizing about having that space and time to really do that. And when my father passed, it felt like it was something I needed to do. I got the calling, it was like, now you need, not just for the, to process the grief, the emotions. And also I felt like it was an opportunity to process whatever illness that was in his ancestral line that's come down through me as an opportunity to deal with some of that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I did 26 days
Wow.
on water.
26 days on water.
Yeah.
Woo!
By far the longest before that I've ever done was 7 days. I like you got the fireworks.
Hey,
Um,
bro. 20,
but yo,
20, you said 26?
26 days.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
It was an incredible experience. Um, Mostly because of what I learned. I mean, I learned so much. It's crazy, right? Like I have a whole notebook full of notes of everything that I was learning constantly, just downloads all day. But so I was, for like the first 10 days, I was like knocked, just like laying down. I was barefoot the whole time, and there's nothing but gravel over there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just kind of getting used to the gravel. So I'm like walking like kind of like an old man everywhere, and just feeling it. And I was listening to this little podcast that I listened to, and they were talking about Nadi Shodhana, the
Yeah.
alternate nostril breathing, which is a practice, that I've done kind of on and off in the past. Um, but I got really inspired to start doing it. And at the same time, I was listening to Devon, the Black Airbender.
So
I was
like
getting,
alchemy breathwork.
yeah, so I was getting really inspired. And so in the podcast, they were saying that the traditional way is to do the Nadi Shodhana 4 times a day.
Okay.
And you're supposed to do it um, when night meets morning,
Mm-hmm.
when morning meets noon, when um, afternoon meets evening,
Mm-hmm.
and when evening meets night.
Got it.
So I started doing the Nadi Shodhana on those 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
And then in between, during the day, when I was just chilling or walking around, I was doing the alchemy breath work, the 3-6-9 or the 5-2-8.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember he'd be like, all the
Yeah.
like the
All the,
nose just, you power. It's like you powering up with,
yo, you said
you
it.
were doing all that.
So within 2 days of starting that, Jerome, I
Mm-hmm.
was so powered up that it was like I couldn't be there anymore. Everybody around me was zero energy, laying down, just knocked, right? And I was just having so much energy. I was walking all
Yeah,
over the place, bouncing
yeah,
around, hugging
yeah.
people, just like having conversations with the gardeners, with Peter, and Nida, and just like, and I was wanting to go for a run.
You couldn't be there. Oh my gosh.
So I spent the next 14 days just like blissed out,
Wow.
blissed out.
Wow.
And what I learned from that was I feel like my first experience of living off
Wow.
prana. The water, listen, the water tasted like, every time I took a sip, I felt like I had a mouthful of pennies, right? On day 14, it started tasting like sugar water. It was like magical, magical.
It's like you can't explain it. You almost can't explain it to people who
Like,
don't, who've never felt like that, who have never been without the constant stimulation, the constant, just like it's really a surreal feeling. So you're saying as the days went on, I mean, it just sounds psychedelic. It sounds like it was a high.
Yo, truly, it was a high. And then one day it rained. It was like, pouring the whole day. And I went outside and I took a shower in the rain. I
Hmm.
came back, the energy was just shooting right out the crown. Like, it was spectacular, to
Wow.
say the least.
Wow. So if someone wanted to embark on, a 26-day or just, that like a fast of that magnitude or a fast of, that type of wavelength, if someone wanted to embark on that, but they haven't even done, a 3-day or let alone a whole day with no eating, what advice would you give that type of person that wants to do so, that feels inspired by you, and they're like, man, I really, I want to feel that. Like I've been meaning to cut back. I've been meaning to have a change in my life. What would you give that person?
Don't do it how I did it. Oh man. Nah, like it's interesting with Lauren at Tanglewood because he has people there that have never
Okay.
fasted doing 21-day water fast, and they're able to do it, and
Right.
and a lot of people are getting a lot of healing through that, and I think that he's checking vital signs all the time, checking blood sugar,
Mm,
weight, everything, I think going to a center like that where you can have supervision if you really want to, especially if you're dealing with an illness,
mm,
you know what I mean, and you're trying to heal, I would say try to do something like that. But if you're just in it to try and change your perspective or change your experience, um, for me, I like to do like, so I do 1 day a week fasting, and I'll do so I started fasting, it's crazy. Like I started fasting when I was like 21 was when I
mm.
did my first fast.
Really?
And it was easy. Like I was in school, I was in the studio making music, staying up all night, going out. Like it was like I didn't even feel it. And I had a whole life journey and sort of came back around to fasting in my 30s.
Hmm.
And when I started trying to fast again, it was so difficult for me to go 1 day,
Hmm.
you know, 1 day.
What made it difficult when you came back?
I think well, how I think of it is there's a couple ways. One, I think just the life force, the prana, the amount of prana that I had at the age of 21
Okay.
was just like, I mean, I hardly needed to sleep. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I could go so many weeks in a row getting like 2 hours of sleep. It was crazy.
Okay.
Being drunk and high and eating all types of cheddar fries and ramen noodles and shit. You know what I mean? Like,
Same. Same. Yeah, same.
like I didn't feel any of it. I was good.
Same. Yeah, yeah.
You know, so there's that. But I think also over time, so I had a period of time in my 20s where I was raw vegan
Hmm.
and, and doing all those fasts and stuff like that, and then I kind of got swept back up in the world of all the things, all the indulgences,
Hmm.
and so coming back to it, I think I actually created even stronger karmas with these certain addictions that I had, these eating addictions and um, marijuana and alcohol. Like it was stronger
Right.
the second time around, even though I wasn't ingesting as much, and I had done some cleansing. It was like the karmic ties were stronger.
Mm.
So I had to really start slow,
Yeah.
and honestly, like I heard you said in one of your videos that like when you first started getting on the breatharian wavelength, you just were listening to it all the time, constantly,
Hmm.
you know, and um, that's something that I've done too, especially with Ellie Tom. I'm just like, I mean, he's got like what 5,000 videos or something. There's always something
So
to
many. Yeah.
put on, and it's like he's pretty much saying the same thing in every video, but it's a download, it's a restructuring of the water inside, and
Mm.
restructuring my thought, my mentality,
Right.
to know that okay, like not only can I do this, but other people are doing
Right.
it, and actually this is my original state, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I try to, go into without so much anxiety about it, and also without pressuring myself too much.
Right.
So there's been many days where I started a fast and I end up eating dinner, or I end up drinking some juice or smoothie, whatever. But I try to say, okay, you made it to 6 p.m., you know, or whatever, or try again next time, try again
Mm-hmm.
next week, you know. And then I try, but then I try to ride the motivation, the inspiration, and the momentum too, because sometimes it's just like I wake. Some days I wake up with hunger, and some days I wake up with nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I try to follow the inspiration of those days when I wake up and like, this is a day I can fast.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just and take it and take it that way. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Like if you don't open a door, you don't have to close it. You know,
yeah, yeah,
you're like, okay, I can fast today. I feel good today. I can do this. And just start off on the right foot. You know, yeah. Because it's interesting. Like, man, that is so tremendous what you're talking about, just your testimony. And thank you for your honesty. Thank you for your honesty of the ups and the downs, the spirals, the ins and the outs, and the back and forth when it comes to consumption. Because just like you were talking about with ramen noodles and all sorts of indulgences, that was me. Same thing. And it was like there was never enough when it came to
yeah.
the flavors, the sauces, the seasonings, the dressings, the toppings, there was never enough, you
Right,
know?
right.
So I went so far in that direction, you know, to bring it back into the other direction for me as well. It took some time. So slow and steady, that is great advice when you give someone to tell them to take it slow. Don't just jump headlong or head first into the deep end, you know? Like take it take it slow with your body.
Yeah.
Because and even through that 26 days, Kai, I know you said you had an abundance of energy. You couldn't hardly sleep. You were bouncing around. You were electrified. But what did it also do? Did you feel any healing? Like, were there any things within you or on your body or in your body that you felt really healed or were purified through that experience?
Yes, absolutely. So much. I think that like I wasn't really coming into it with any specific health ailments.
Right.
Um, but I've noticed that certain food addictions, certain food cravings have passed
Yeah.
and have not returned. Um, Also like certain like old injuries. Like I had this left hamstring thing from high school football that just never healed, and it's like a recurring pattern. And it completely went away, that sensation during the fast and for a while after. And it's come back a little bit, but something that really shifted was one day I was doing some yoga, I was stretching, and I was in a really deep forward bend, hamstring stretch.
Mhm.
And I realized that what I was pushing against, or what the blockage was there going into that, wasn't the injury, because the injury feeling was gone, but there was fear there, right? The sensation was gone, but the fear was still there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like it took me like once it was another mind blowing moment, and that was kind of my meditation for like maybe 3 weeks after that, is moving through the fear in that
The
leg,
actual fear
the
in
fear. And
the
so,
leg.
yeah, and so that's something that I'm still working with every day in my practice, but it's so different now that I understand what I'm working with.
Wow.
That it's not just inflammation or this, whatever scar tissue. It's emotion
Yes.
there, and I move towards it like I'm moving towards emotion,
Right.
and it's it's really profound.
Wow. Blessings, brother. Thank you for that. Thank you for that piece. You
Thank you.
know, that's amazing, man, that you were able to recognize that in the moment, you know, in the moment of the stretch, you're like, the pain's not there, but something still remains. Even if it's not the pain, the fear remained.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. You know, I'm a massage therapist and craniosacral therapist. I
Mhm.
teach yoga and stuff, so I'm always interfacing with people's bodies and
Right.
their injuries and their illnesses. And for me, it's always a kind of a blessing when I have an injury or some illness because it teaches me something and gives me more compassion
Hmm.
for what people are going through. Um, and so and I learned that, like we learn these things in like massage school. It's like, oh, there's emotions stuck in the body, there's emotions in the hips, and we learn these things intellectually. But when you learn it in your own body, it's like now it's like, okay, I know what that
Yeah.
feels like,
Yes.
and I know that I don't know, like I spent so many years, I mean, more than a decade,
Hmm.
almost 2 decades, walking around with this fear in my
Mm.
leg and not knowing how to deal with it and
Hmm.
having this recurring injury, and so, yeah, it's really helpful to be able to also kind of guide people, others in that way where it's like, hey, what else is there?
Yeah.
You know, what else is in that shoulder? What else is in that low back? Or
Mm.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
The whole spectrum, thank you for this guidance. Thank you for just the knowledge and wisdom that you've gotten from your own experience, your lived in experience of life to experience, the feelings, the emotions, the water, the water that needs to move from that area, the fear that needs to move from these areas. And I think it fits a lot of pieces to the puzzle together for people to understand that it may not just be what you think it is. It may be more than you know it is, So take it one step further and to not beat yourself up, to have compassion with yourself and to have forgiveness with the past karmas, as you put it, the karmas, decisions, the choices that you made in the past that are now taking place in the present, to have a brighter future ahead. So blessings, brother, man. Thank you also for that advice for people who might be wanting to fast themselves, that actually having a water fasting center or a water fasting guide might be very good for their journey if they're wanting to embark on something of that magnitude.
yeah,
And if this is somebody's first time seeing you and they're just inspired by your story, they want to get to know more about you. Do you have any offerings, any services, or a website, or any place that you'd like people to go to receive that?
yeah, for sure. So, I'm on Instagram. Just my name, Soares Cobb. It's here's a link, a book me link,
Okay.
and that just brings you to my website. And I mostly do in-person things, so the craniosacral therapy, um, and the massage. But I'm also, I do guided meditation. So like the type of craniosacral therapy that I practice is really about bringing oneself into awareness of our nervous system and being able to create nervous system safety,
Mm.
which allows for that healing energy to really come into the and do its thing in the body.
Yeah.
So I also guide that online. So if somebody wanted to work remotely, I guide that, and we do some breath work, and I always share different little things. I've got all these tricks that I've learned over the years. That I love to share with people. Um,
Beautiful.
so that's that's the
Beautiful.
way that people could link up.
Awesome, brother. Well, you've inspired me today, man. Just like you were inspired to walk all those miles, miles and miles. I'm inspired to embark on something. I'm not going to, spill the beans right now, but after I do it, I'm gonna tell you I did it.
Hey, yeah, that's the energy. That's the wave.
Once
I'm
I
not gonna
do it,
tell
I'm gonna
you.
tell you
I'm
I did
not gonna tell you what I'm inspired to do next too. That you've inspired me to do, but I'll let you know.
it. Yeah. Blessings, blessings, bro. So much love, man. Much love. Till the next time. Till the
Hey,
next
much
time,
love
brother.
to you. You know, Jerome, I just want to say thank you, give you your flowers. Like, you know, what you're doing is so major. Like, it's amazing how many people that you bring onto this channel that like I feel like I connect with, who I'm like, man, I want to know, I want to hang out with them too. You know, and it's like it's revealing that there is a tribe, you know, of those of us who are on the same wavelength. And you know, sometimes it can get a little lonely out here, you know. Um, yeah, it's much appreciated what you're doing, and the way you hold honest space for authenticity and vulnerability. Yo, big love for that. Big love for
Man,
that. You're setting a huge example.
man, thank you, bro. I received that. I received that. We will continue. We'll continue.
Yes, I.
All right. All right. Take care, brother.
All right, you too. Have a blessed day.
You as well.
Peace. Peace, everybody.
Peace.